We're super excited to have our guest speaker, Nguyen. Nam is a Canadian figure skater who's been skating since 2003, and his achievements include 2014 World Junior Champion, 2019 Skate Canada Silver Medalist, and two-time Canadian National Champion in 2015 and 2019. He's placed as high as 5th at the World Championships in 2015. Welcome, Nam.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to spend the afternoon chatting with you guys. My name is Nan. Obviously, I've been skating for almost 20 years, I think, and uh, started representing Canada when I was 13 years old. And since then, I've just been cruising through my career, having fun along the way. Yeah, looking forward to chatting with you guys.
Brilliant.
Awesome. So I guess we'll get straight into the questions. We have a number of user submitted questions that we're just going to roll through. And then a reminder, if you guys want to ask more questions, just do so in the Q&A channel, and then we'll invite you to unmute and ask them after these questions. So our first question for you, Nam, is who is your skating idol growing up?
When I was younger, I looked up to Jeff Budel, Stefan Lambiel, and Evgeny Plushenko. Um, I mean, those three individuals kind of were like one of the many pioneers of creating artistry along the way. I think with Evgeny, it was his technical skills. Um, but yeah, no, and then going through my career, it started to kind of change, and then I think currently right now the skaters that I look up to would be Javier Fernandez and Yuzuru Hanyu, both for very obvious reasons. Um, but yeah, no, there's a lot of great skaters in our current era, and yeah, it's been awesome kind of like skating with them and competing on the same levels as them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, it's pretty
And
interesting. How was it like looking up to these skaters growing up and then like actually meeting them and like skating on the same ice as them?
Yeah, it was really cool. Like, I think my first ever experience would be in 2009 when I shared the same ice with Yuna Kim, Patrick Chan,
No.
Kendall Weiss-Check, all those kinds of people, and I was just in shock. Um, I like, I think I shared like one practice session with them. It was like a Four Continents Gala practice, and I was invited to do the exhibition because I was like a local skater in the Vancouver area,
Mhm.
and so just to be on the same ice as them and just watch them go, it was really an incredible feeling. And then competing with, you know, the top skaters like Patrick Yusu, Javi, like the very first time doing that, um, it was definitely something that I won't ever forget because the adrenaline, the energy from those sessions was just something that I don't think will ever be repeated. And especially like I think the first time was for me. I think 2014 World Championships in Saitama, Japan.
Mhm.
I shared my first practice session with Javier Fernandez, and just
Uh,
I don't know, it was so cool. Like I was practicing. I mean, I've been practicing with Yuzu and Javi like at home in the cricket, but just to share the same competition practice ice was unbelievable, and I loved it very much.
oh wow, thanks. We'll go straight to our next question. Melinda asks, what was your number one tip for someone who wants to start figure skating in their late teens?
Um, I think it's like never it's never too late to start skating. I think,
Yeah.
but my number one tip for someone starting their late teens, I think, is just to enjoy the process, not get too far ahead of yourself. I know, when you're watching the other skaters and they're doing all these cool tricks and stuff, you really want to do it. And by all means, go for it. But like, if I were you, I'd just take my time, slow down the process, stay in the present moment and just really enjoy it because at that age, it's more about, you know, being mindful of what you do and just trying to remember everything like
Mm.
of how your session goes and you just want to really, as I said, enjoy it basically. For me, like I'm actually just kind of like going into that mentality because when I was growing up, I didn't really remember everything. I kind of kind of just went out and did it, and then didn't really put too much thought into it. But as I get older, I kind of just want to appreciate some of the simple things that skating has to offer. And I think when you're starting out at that age, like 18, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like the most important key, which is to, like step on the ice, feel the wind blowing across your face as you're skating, and just enjoy the sport because the sport is so beautiful to watch and to experience.
Yeah, it's very important.
Hmm. So our next question is a quite specific one, but as you know, if you've been on Nam's Instagram, you will have seen that he has Aura skates. So you wore Aura skates for a time. What is your honest opinion of them, and what do you like about them?
Yeah, so I actually have them right here with me. These are like brand new skates. I knew this question was coming up, so I had them like set on my desk. But I've been in auras for I think few years now. I don't remember, but um, at the time of switching, I was in resports before, and I was at the point where like the resports couldn't like didn't feel good on my feet, and so before that I was in Jackson's and I couldn't really go back to Jackson's because they like for me I feel like they've changed their technology quite a bit that my foot wouldn't kind of like get used to them. And so I saw Auras and then I reached out to them asking if I could try a pair and we kind of started our relationship there and they've really listened to me and listened to everything that my feet needed, and they tried their best to in delivering in their skates. My honest opinion of them is that there are some things that don't work. There are some things that do work, and the pros outweigh the cons for me. First and foremost, I think they're really light. This is actually their new stock prototype skates because Auras are known for making custom skates. They take a 3D scan of your feet and then they build a mold around the foot that they scan, and then their heat molding process is quite different from like a Jackson's or Esports where you stick them in the oven and then you just tie them up. Whereas Auras is you start out by putting them in the oven and then you actually wrap the entire boot with like saran wrap to really get that boot to shape to your feet. Um, and there's really no break in time. I think within 30 minutes of putting brand new Auras on, I can pull out triple axles and quads, and so they're really good. For me, like sometimes my issue is like the longevity of these skates. They don't last as long as I would like them to, and the last year and a half we've gone through trials of these new boots where they would add some strength to them, increase the stiffness, and see if they would last longer, which they did. But the compromise was the comfort, right? Like you start out and they don't feel good; they feel like bricks.
Uh,
So I think with these stock skates, they feel great out of the box,
Mm-hmm.
and the stiffness feels good. So I'm hoping that these work. But for the other skaters that I know that are in auras, they enjoy them a lot. The break-in time is kind of like their biggest factor of why they stick with it. But yeah, I would 10 out of 10 recommend aura skates to everybody.
oh, it has a very fast break-in period.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah. There's like no pain or whatsoever because with Jacksons and Resports, I always had blisters
Yeah,
breaking
you
them in,
would do.
but when I slipped into these auras, like no pain whatsoever. Like there was no blisters, like no sore spots. It was really great. So I plan on sticking with these guys for a while.
Oh, okay. Next question is from Evan. Evan says, everyone sometimes hits a wall or gets frustrated while skating. What is the experiences like for you, and how do you overcome them?
Yeah. So great question. For me, it's been, especially with this year, and that goes for all the other skaters around the world. It's
Yeah.
been a season like no other. A lot of frustrations, especially for the Canadian skaters, because we had very limited opportunities to go out and compete compared to the rest of the world, where I think they've competed at least maybe 2 times, 3 times in their season. Um, and you obviously saw like a huge discrepancy from us Canadian skaters to the
Yeah.
rest of the international field. But I don't know. It's like it's very different from one skater to the other in terms of how they deal with these kinds of experiences. For me, it's best to kind of take a couple of steps back, Just analyze the situation, but not too much, because when you start analyzing too much, you get into your head a lot, and then you start to kind of come up with some theories that don't really make sense. And so for me, my best approach is to slow things down, take a few steps back, analyze for a little bit, and then change up the perspective. Like if there was a day where I don't feel good, I don't try to beat that day out. I try to work on something else. Feel productive. So if I feel like I can't rip out like 20 quads that day, I'll probably just work on like program stuff or simple things just to kind of like get myself grounded.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes when you're working on difficult elements, like the adrenaline is so high, you feel the tension up into your shoulders, and some days it works, some days it doesn't. So the best is to just really compress that tension down into your legs and really just feel the ice underneath your feet. And that works for me, which is slowing down, taking a few steps back, and just work on something else that isn't physically demanding and isn't doesn't cause too much stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are really important things. Just to, go with it. And just to kind of go on top of that, what is your daily training routine? Yeah.
Yeah, so if it was like a regular season, I would wake up at around 8 o'clock ish, because usually my training starts at around 11 and then I finish at 3. I have 3 1-hour sessions, and then I have like, so it's 2 hours and then a break, and then finishing with the last session. And first session I usually do like short program, second session long program, and then the third session would just be working on parts or working on jump stuff, all that like individual stuff basically. And then after that, depending on what day it is, I would usually go to the gym or go home and recover, and then I come back later in the day to coach the younger kids, because I got to make money to pay for my stuff. But with this season, it's been different because our ice time is very limited. So I only have 2 hours every morning, and then the rest of the day is uh, either going to the gym, either or coaching or working on my real estate stuff. But yeah, there's not really much except for working and skating and all of that.
Fair enough. Oh, okay. The next question is your thoughts on ladies' quads and triple axel. What do you think about them?
I think it's super impressive that our sport has evolved so much and so fast. We're now at a point at seeing like all these young female skaters, mostly from Russia, just dominate. Like they're doing quad lutzes, quad flips, like quads that not many men can do. Um, and I think it's really impressive to see that. But also at the same time, it's a little bit scary because they're doing it at such a young age
Yeah.
that you worry about how are they going to keep up with that once their body changes, once they get older, right? Like there are so many things that you have to think about in terms of like the safety of these
Yeah. And the
younger kids
longevity.
excelling at at such a young age. Um, but when you watch Lisa Tuktamisheva, I'm pretty sure I butchered her name. I'm sorry. At her age and doing triple axles, quad toes, and now working on quad lutzes, like you see, like there's hope, right? As long as you are patient with your progress, um, and kind of just relying on proper technique, I think you'll be able to you'll do just fine. Which, as you see, she's completely doing good stuff. Like
Yeah.
she's doing great. I think what she was world silver medals, world bronze medals. I don't remember what it was, but just watching her practice at World Team Trophy a few weeks ago, I think it was really cool to see that, you know, with her maturity and all that, she's still able to pull out all these really cool high end tricks.
Yeah, she's really become a fan favorite I've seen on the Reddit and Twitter and stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think almost it was refreshing to see her, out there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it's awesome to watch all these young kids just pull out these quads and big tricks, right? But you know, at first it was great, and then it starts to
Yeah.
get year after year after year. It's
Yeah.
still amazing to see, but you always want to see something refreshing, which is seeing somebody that's a little older than these younger girls still being able to catch up to them, and
Yeah.
I think
It's
Lisa's a prime
impressive.
example of that, right? Exactly. Like, um, I've always enjoyed watching her skate, and especially now, like when she's able to catch up to like Anna Shevakova or Alexandra Trusova,
Hmm.
like that's just really nice to see for sure.
Absolutely. And okay, which one are we doing next? David, do you want to ask the next one?
I can do. Okay, not related to skating for this one, but unknown asks, they didn't put their name. Your favorite Taylor Swift song? Do you have
I
one?
actually don't listen. I don't listen to Taylor Swift, so I can't really
Oh,
answer
that's
that.
going to annoy a lot of people.
I know. I'm so sorry, guys, but I'm actually very selective with what I listen to, and
Hmm.
it's quite limited, unfortunately. But I need to kind of like
What do you
find
listen
time to
to?
really just sit down. I listen to a lot of BTS,
Oh,
a lot of Michael
we have a
Jackson.
BTS stan.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And just like a whole bunch of other like artists that are not as well known, I think, in my
Yeah.
opinion, but they produce some great music, and unfortunately, Taylor Swift isn't one of them. I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Sorry, Taylor. Are you good, Claire, or you want me to ask the next one as well?
Yeah, sure. I can ask the next one. What is like how do you manage expectations of other people or from other people?
um, I think that at this point in my career, I don't exactly manage them because I couldn't really like care too much. Because if I care too much of it, it starts to affect me in a negative way where I feel like I have to kind of perform for them, right? Like at the end of the day, what I realize at this point in my career is that I have to do this for myself. When I was younger, I felt like, my purpose was to perform for other people, like for my coaches, for my parents, for the people around me and all that. But it only works for a certain, amount of time. But when you get to the later stages of your career, that's when you realize like it doesn't matter what other people think of you. You have to just do the best for yourself, um, because your career is your own career, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's something that I realized. So, of course, I take into account of what people expect of me, right? And I use that to kind of like shape the goals that I've set for myself in the season. But I don't really take it too much into my heart because I don't want it to kind of like command everything that I do. So yes, it definitely inspires me in some ways, but at the end of the day, for me, what's most important is that I skate for myself. And if it's not everybody's cup of tea, it's not everybody's cup of tea. As long as I do, what my job is, and that's just to put out two good performances and one that I can enjoy. And then the second priority is hopefully I connect well enough to the audience that members watching and hope that they enjoy it as well.
Yeah, of course. Okay, next question. On Reddit and other social media sites, we saw Yuzuru Hanyu's thesis talking about the current judging system of figure skating. He wrote that he thinks AI judging is worth considering, similar to how they do in like football, for example, to see if a football crossed the goal.
Yep.
They want to know the general skaters' opinions on that and your opinion on
Yeah.
the judging system overall.
Yeah. So, I don't really have a lot of experience. I haven't seen Yuzu's thesis on it, but knowing who he is and all that, like I'm pretty sure he has like a lot of legitimate, valid opinions on the judging system. Um, but from my experience with the judging system, I think that of course it's flawed, as we can all see.
Yeah.
But you know, there's not really much you can do about it. Unfortunately, it's the ISU, right? They will change the system, on their their time, on their schedule, right? And I think that ours our job as a skater is just to do the best that we can and hope that the results will follow through, right? Um, the general consensus for the judging system from all skaters that I believe is kind of more or less the same as what I said, is that there's not really much you can do. Yes, you can kind of like gripe about it, complain about it, but is it going to change it immediately with the ICU? I don't think so. And so
Yeah.
at the end of the day, what we do is just kind of like buckle down and really just focus on improving our craft, because that's what we're able to control, right? We're not able to control a lot of what the ISU does from their end.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think with the AI judging, whatever it is that Yuzu has been writing about, I think yes, that is worth looking into, and one that I believe is going to definitely change the sport for good.
Hmm.
But do I think that the ISU is going to consider it in the near future? I don't think so, but I hope that they will implement that technology, because there definitely is a lot of cases where somebody's jump is under rotated, and then I think that the tech panel just tends to overlook that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think
These changes take
again,
time as
and
well.
I'm also still competing, so I have to be very careful with what I
Of
say.
course. Yeah.
But those are just my opinions. I think that yes, our system is flawed for sure, but can we do anything to change it from the skaters end? I don't know. I don't think so. So we just have to do what we're best at, which is to continually perform and just showcase our art and all that.
Yeah, of course. Um, and so the next question is, what is the figure skater's diet, or what is your way to stay healthy? I guess. While you're competing as a figure skater.
So for me personally, my diet is kind of like all over the place. I just eat whatever I want.
No
But
dietitian.
I actually got away with it really well when I was younger, because I could eat whatever and then you know perform still at my peak. But now,
Yeah.
like, I just can't eat whatever I want. It takes a toll on my body, which sucks now. So I
Yeah.
have to be very careful with what I eat. But I know a lot of other skaters have certain diets that
Hmm.
they follow and all that. But for me, it's just kind of like whatever it is.
Oh well. It's the off season now, so maybe you can be a bit more relaxed in what you eat.
A little bit, yeah. Just a teeny
Yeah.
bit. Just a teeny bit.
All right, we have a
Mm.
question from Twitch actually. J Debay20 asks, do you live on your own? If so, how is the adjustment in regards to being responsible for waking up for training and eating correctly, etc.?
Yeah. Yes, I do live on my own. I moved into my own place January this year. Yeah, early January this year. And in terms of like taking the ownership responsibility of waking up and all that, like I think it's like I've already been doing that for a couple of years now, so I don't know what that vibe is like. But just the energy of living on my own is different from living with my parents. Some days it's overwhelming, and then some days I'm okay with.
Mm.
But one that I actually quite enjoy. I like living on my own, and I live in the city of Toronto, so it's really nice. I have a really nice view, so I can't really complain too much. But yeah, I think living on my own definitely helps with owning up to my daily schedule and just making sure that I follow up with everything that I planned for the day.
Interesting. Claire?
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. Yes. So, so our next question is what is your favorite toe or edge jump and why?
So my favorite edge jump would be Sao. I've always felt comfortable doing that jump just because you're on a back inside edge and you can kind of sit there and not have to force the jump, and it'll just come directly to you. Toe jumps, unfortunately, are not my favorite. It doesn't matter if it was a toe loop, flip, or lutz. I've always had a hard time gauging how much energy I need to put in and how much energy to put out for the jump. So, I mean, I can still do, you know, all the triple jumps and quad toe and all that stuff. And at one point, I was doing quad flips but my preference would be edge jumps over toe jumps for sure.
Oh, okay. It's quite interesting how different skaters prefer different types of jumps, because I'm a toe jumper myself. Well, a lot of people are edge jumpers.
So I actually had a long discussion with Nathan Chen in Japan for at World Team Trophy, where I just kind of like picked his brain a little bit and asked him his from like his perspective of the sport, and he likes the toe jumps.
Yeah,
just
he's a
'cause
toe
you
jumper.
had the assist. Yeah, like as we all see,
Mm-hmm.
toe jumper for sure. But he really emphasized on like the patterning of his jumps and how that can help him really set it up nicely, and the assist of the toe pick, which I for some reason can't seem to figure out on my own. Like I understand the concept of how the toe pick should get you up. Unfortunately for me, I do a little bit of pre-rotation on my toe jumps, so I still got to work on that. But it was definitely interesting to hear his thoughts on his jumps and all that, and how he's able to kind of like do them so easily. Like I was practicing with him earlier in the week in Japan, and he just goes into these jumps as if they were doubles. Like it's so easy. Like it's so impressive to see. And I was like, I need to make sure that at one point during the week I ask him about skating because I'm really interested. So yeah, glad that I kind of had that little chat with him and kind of like learn more about who he is as a skater.
Yeah, picked his brain a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, next question from Unknown again. In your opinion, what are some of the best and worst things about figure skating?
I think the best thing about figure skating is all the opportunities and experiences you get to, experience along the way through your career, whether it be an international skater or just, a recreational skater. Figure skating is a beautiful sport. You get to meet all these different kinds of people around the world, whether it be through social media or meeting up with them at events and all that. And so um, I talked a little bit about in the past of how lonely figure skating can be, because at the end of the day, you're performing out there by yourself, unless you're in dance or pairs. But as a single skater, you're out there by yourself, competing by yourself, and just to know that you have friends along the way can make your journey a little bit easier. And then for me, I think the worst part about figure skating is just it is definitely like the injuries, because skating you got to be like perfect. You got to be dead on with the things that you do, right? And there's not really a lot of room for compromise in terms of technique or something like that, right? If you're injured, like let's say if your right hip is injured and you're doing a triple loop, you have to stack that right hip on top of your right knee, your right foot in order to perform that jump correctly. But if you feel like you want to dip that hip in just to skip out on the pain, that's not going to work out for you. It's a very specific thing, but for me, I feel like injuries are the worst part of figure skating because there's not a lot of room to adjust your technique to compensate for your injury. And it can definitely take out like a lot of energy out, like not just physically but mentally too, because you're so stressed of like the deadlines for your next event or whatever it is. And I know a lot of skaters that I was growing up with had to leave the sport early because of injuries, and it sucks. So yeah,
it's a very dangerous sport.
Yeah, it is.
We're not wearing armor and stuff like in hockey.
Exactly. It's like I coach hockey a little bit, like just power skating, and they all wear like their heavy gear and all that. Where if you look at us figure skaters, like the most we wear would be a butt pad or a hip pad and all that. That's basically it. And so a lot of people tend to overlook that skating can be a pretty dangerous sport when you're going like really fast into your jumps, and then that doesn't go well, and you're like this in the air instead of straight, and then you just land on your hip bone, and it hurts pretty bad.
Or tailbone.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah, the worst.
All right, so our next question is about your music, I believe. And this person is anonymous, but they say, "Hi Nam, was wondering why you switched back to blues for Cook. Will you skate to Adios No Nino next season?"
Yeah, so great question. so this past season, I mean, if the COVID thing was not really at large as it is, and events were still going, I completely would have just stuck with Adios No Ninos for this season because I viewed this one as one last year to experiment with a different genre of skating, and um, I've only skated to a tango theme program once, and that was in my novice at novice level, and I don't really count that. So I wanted to kind of like see if I could perform to Adios No Ninos, but unfortunately there were so many events being canceled, and uh, there wasn't a lot of events to really test that out. And I knew that I thought that nationals were going to happen, worlds was going to happen, and then world team trophy. Like those were really like important events that I didn't want to risk. So my team and I believe that going back to Blues for Klug would be the best option, just because I performed that program for a season already prior
Yeah.
to COVID season. Let's call that. Um, and so yeah, we thought that was the smart move, which I guess it was. If I look back on this season and training, it was I was way more comfortable with it just because I already had mileage and experience underneath my belt for it. Um, Now, whether or not if I go back to Adios No Ninos for next season, I don't think so. My short program, I decided to go back to my old one, Frank Sinatra, That's Life. It was one that I really enjoyed performing, and um, I know a couple of people really liked it. They
Yeah, it's a
really liked that
classic.
program just because the energy, and it's just me, right? And then
Hmm.
for my free program, I think like it's 98% sure, but I think I'm gonna stick with my current long program. We're gonna change the composition a bit in certain parts, change up the energy, just to make it more special. When I performed it at World Team Trophy, it just felt really flat, and I was like dying towards the
Oh
end.
god.
I mean, obviously, I have to condition my body for it, but just the energy itself was one that I was one that wasn't matching when I approached this program. So I think it's for sure that we're going to continue with this long program.
Oh, fair enough. The pandemic has impacted, I think, honestly, every skater. A lot of skaters bringing back old programs and stuff. So
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, like, I'm not really the type of person that likes to risk everything.
yeah.
And if I was that kind of person, I would have gone straight to Adios No Ninos for the Olympic season program for the Olympic season. Um, but that's just not who I am. I would rather be more comfortable and just really perform the heck out of it and kind of like juice up all the points possible.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's kind of the right approach for this upcoming one.
Fair enough. We have a question from Zhuan. They say, why did you leave Toronto Cricket Club?
Yeah, so I think I left after the 2015-2016 season. Um, there were a lot of reasons why I left. One of them being that the relationship between Brian and I and the other coaches kind of was like it just felt like it was coming to an end. I had a lot of personal issues that needed to be dealt with, and our goals didn't really match up at the time, and so we felt like it was best to kind of move on and just go different ways.
Hmm.
And then another, I think, being that there were a lot of skaters moving into the club because the club was gaining popularity, which deservedly so. I mean, you have like superstar athletes there, like
Yeah.
Jason Brown, Jun Hwan Cha, Yuzu Havi, and then at one point, Nguyen came into that club. So the popularity was rising, and I felt like it was hard to to maintain the amount of attention that I was receiving when it was just me, Yuzu, and Javi at the time. Um, and in my career at that point, I needed that extra attention because I needed the guidance to help me figure out all these issues I was going through. So
Hmm.
that's why I moved to California because it was more of like a low key vibe that place had, whereas the cricket was just booming with all these superstar skaters, and it was hard for me to keep up personally.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
imagine.
absolutely.
Like, the attention of a
Yeah,
coach can only be stretched so thin with all these huge skaters.
correct. Yeah, and I think like I'm not bashing the cricket or anything. Like I respect the cricket, and like I respect all the coaches that I work with there. But just from my skating style and like the way that I learn, it just required a little bit more than what could have been given to me at the time,
Yeah.
right? So just
Absolutely.
moving.
Yeah,
we
fair enough.
felt
You know
was
what's
the
best for you.
option. Exactly.
Awesome. So the next one is a bit of a lighter question, bit of a fun one. If you could ban one song from ever being used in skating programs again, what would it be?
Um, I see a lot of talks that Carmen is like the
Yeah.
highest up there. I don't really like pay too much attention to the music being used for a skater, if it's overused or not. So I mean, like I guess going along with the trend, I'd say Carmen should be one piece of music that should be banned. It's definitely been overused. It's been used for a long time, so I'd say Carmen, but I'm not really experienced in that department for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Selma asks, what was it like working with Jordan Cohen, or more commonly known as his Instagram handle, on Ice Perspectives?
He's a great guy. I love him. His personality is awesome. Uh, Working with him is so easy because he literally just follows you. You don't even really need to like plan out stuff because he's a skater himself, so he knows like the general patterns of program stuff. So
Um,
when I get to work with him, he literally just follows me around with the camera, and never have we like crashed into each other, which has been great. And the content that he picks up is incredible. Like literally, the perspective from on the ice is amazing. And I've heard that there's been talks of incorporating that into competition, and I think that's something that I completely disagree with because I think that can be a little bit
yeah,
distracting at times
definitely.
for some skaters. For me, I actually don't mind it. I actually like having another person out there on the ice. But I think we should just stick with the traditional format. Just have that one skater out on the ice and let the
Yeah.
cameras around the rink do the job. Sure, it's not going to add to the wow factor of having a camera follow you on the ice
I
and
think
like
for
see the whole thing.
exhibitions, it would
Yeah,
be
for
good.
exhibition, of course.
Yeah.
Exhibitions, let's do it. Yes, but for competition, I don't think so. Just because skaters need to be in the zone, and then if you have a guy with like a really fancy camera
Yeah.
rig following you around, that can be a little bit distracting. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, no. But definitely, I love Jordan. I hope that when COVID ends soon, he can come back up to Canada and we can do some more work together.
Oh, I know he's a great guy.
Yep.
Right, so our next question is kind of not related to skating, but what do you see yourself doing after your skating career?
I definitely want to continue staying in the skating world, just because the skating world has given me so much, and I want to give back to it. So in the immediate future, when I do retire, like I want to coach for sure and share my experience with the younger skaters and kind of help guide them through it. Another thing that I'm interested in is real estate. So as I said earlier, I'm currently getting my license through that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not quite sure if that interest is going to maintain for that long, but in a perfect world, I hope it does, and so I can kind of like start selling play or like
Yeah.
just do
It's
all
a
what
good
real
backup.
estate agents do. Exactly, yeah. Because I want to explore other options outside of skating. I don't want to be strictly inside the skating world and kind of like have everything narrowed down. I really want to expand my interests um, out in the real world.
Yeah, that's always best. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's like a lot of that money that like you can earn from coaching, you can invest in stocks or in real estate and stuff. So it's
I
good to
have
learn
money
about that.
invested to Dogecoin right now. I'm so
Of course you do.
so
Everyone has
it's so stupid.
Dogecoin.
It's so stupid. But because tonight Elon Musk is on Saturday Night Live, I there's like
Oh,
saying that
is he?
Dogecoin is going to like go through the moon or go through the roof or whatever, and so I'm definitely into that hype. It's so stupid, but like that's the power
Yeah.
of social media.
Oh God, it's scary how much influence that man has.
I know.
Okay, another not really that serious question, all related to skating. Do you prefer cats or dogs?
Dogs. I hate cats.
You hate
Unfortunately,
cats?
I hate cats. I can't. I'm sorry. People watching that love cats like and are gonna probably hate me now, but I can't. I just don't understand cats.
Oh, you just
They're
lost a lot of
just
fans.
yeah. I probably do. Yeah, but I'm sorry, but that's just my stance. Like I don't know. Ever since I got Hudson, like my affection for dogs has just gone up.
Oh, Hudson is
and
amazing though.
communicate. But with cats, I don't understand them. I just look at them and they just give you a death stare back. Like it's just so scary. Like I don't know. I'm sorry guys, but that's just I just like I love dogs.
Oh, fair enough. Claire?
Yeah, so the next question is um what was your experience during the Skate Canada Challenge? It being a virtual competition, how was it different from actual competitions that were like in person? And did what were things that you liked or didn't liked about it being a virtual competition?
I think the biggest thing that was lacking from a virtual, like from a virtual event, was the energy of that the fans provide and even the judges provide. I didn't really feel nervous at all, like that I usually get while I'm at a real event, and so I didn't treat it as a normal competition. I kind of just showed up like 5 minutes before that was supposed to start and kind of just did my thing. Um, I don't know. I'm the type of person that performs at my best usually when
Hmm.
there's a crowd involved because I connect with them. Like during a 6 minute warm up at a real event, I actually will sometimes talk to the people watching. I'll say hi and kind of like stare at them, wink at them, communicate them, connect with them. It's a little bit odd, but that's kind of how I operate as a competitive skater. Just kind of like vibe out with them, so I can relax a bit and give them a good time for sure. But the virtual event was definitely something that I didn't really like because you get on, you do your 6 minute warm up. It just felt like it was like a chore. It didn't feel like it was something that I could easily go through. I mean, my skates there were much better than I did at World Team Trophy. So that whole situation goes completely against everything that I value as a skater. But um, yeah, I hope that people will get vaccinated quickly so that we can go to in-person events soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully.
absolutely.
Talking about the World Team Trophy, what's it like being a captain compared to just going to the team trophy? Do you have any
I
more
mean, there's
like
not really much of a
responsibilities?
difference. Basically, there really is not a huge difference between being a team member and a team captain. I guess you kind of just take charge of like the cheer and all that. But
Yeah.
I made a group chat with the team for the week and kind of just use as a way of if anybody needed support, we're all there for each other and all that because um, I keep it similar to how I do it with Keegan, where we just make sure that there's an open line where we can say what we want and if we need each other, we're there for each other immediately. So that's kind of what I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
But other than that, like we're all there to do our job, compete, try to put out two good performances and all that. So it's not really much of a huge difference, I would say.
And how was it socializing with the other skaters? Were you allowed to during the pandemic or?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like we all did it from like the socially distanced requirements that
Yeah.
was bestowed upon us, right? Like we all wore masks, like in all public places and all that, and like even in the dinner room, like breakfast, lunch, dinner room, like there were like these divider thingies in our tables to kind of like minimize all that. I don't know if that really worked because we ended up kind of scooting over a bit just to see each other's faces because it was not a glass divider; it was literally like a whiteboard, so you can't
Oh
see each
God.
other through the thing.
Oh,
Um, yeah, but no, but we still kind of like were able to communicate with each other from apart and just catch up with one another, which was always nice.
yeah, and so that was all for our pre-submitted questions. I'm just gonna ask Nam if unfortunately not everyone can join the channel because we have our webcams on, but I think if you turn yours off, everyone
Yep.
should be able to join.
Yep.
And then I'll just let everyone know.
All right. Let's see if more
And
people are
then
there
we're
to
gonna
join
have
now.
some more questions asked, and where everyone can unmute and then ask them.
Thanks. We
So
can have a chat with each other.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, there we go. A lot more people can join now. All right. Brilliant. They can still only hear us.
Cool.
All right, welcome guys. If you want to ask Nam any questions live using your marvelous voice, then you can do so. Ask your question in the Q&A channel chat above this voice chat, and then we'll call out your name, and then you can ask the question. I think we'll give a little time for everyone to join. I have one more question from Twitch.
Yep.
Jay DeBay again, saying, what type of recovery techniques do you use, like rolling or like salt baths or something like that?
I do a lot of mobility work, just because my body is not really aligned in the best way possible. So I always make sure that my joints are kind of lined up. A lot of stretching, but the biggest thing for me would be using my Normatec recovery pants. So there are these pair of pants that you put your legs in, and they pump air through these pants and like compresses your legs, and it improves your blood flow. Just because after a day of training, you have a lot of lactic acid built up, and so the idea behind these pants is to kind of like flush that lactic acid out and pump in new blood into your legs. And I use it quite often. I also use like a vibrating gun, where if a certain part of my legs are tight, I would just use that to kind of like loosen it up a bit. But yeah, a lot of stretching for sure, just to keep myself, mobile. And as I said, doing a lot of mobility work helps me.
Oh, interesting. Are they like really big, like on your legs, or are they literally just like a pair of pants that you just fit into?
They're like, I think like they're not they're pretty bulky. But they're
Can you
like
walk around in
basically
them,
like
or?
a sleeve. No, you can't walk around in them. No,
Oh,
you have to actually
right.
be like sitting down or lying down. Yeah, you got to be sitting down in them because it's connected to a machine that pumps the air into these pants. Yes,
Just
so
having
like
your legs squeezed.
pretty much, yeah. It's like a 30-minute or however long you want to set the session to, but it's something that everybody should invest in. It's a little bit pricey, but worth the money for sure.
Oh, no. What are they called again?
Normatec recovery pants.
Normatec recovery pants. Oh, okay. I think a few of our skaters wouldn't mind looking into that.
Exactly.
All right, we actually have a live question now from Elliot Lynn. Let me go ahead and unmute her.
Elliot, are you able to unmute?
There you go.
Yeah, I am. I didn't know if I was supposed to then or not.
Go ahead.
Okay, my question isn't skating related, but since you said you listen to BTS, what's your favorite BTS?
Sorry, you cut out the end there.
What's your favorite BTS song?
My favorite BTS song would be Filter and On. Love those two songs.
Oh.
Yeah,
There's some good songs.
those are two songs that
Fairly new, right?
always play on like during my sessions or if I needed to hype myself up. And like majority of the time on repeat while I'm driving to and from the rink.
Just on repeat the same song.
Yes.
Oh, really gets the blood flowing.
Exactly.
Okay, if anyone else has any other questions, go ahead and ask them in the Q&A channel above. We'll unmute you. We'll go for, what do you think, like 10 more minutes?
Yeah.
All right, Soul would like to ask a question. If you could unmute her, Claire.
Soul. Okay, you can unmute yourself now, Soul.
Hi, thanks. I was wondering if you had to delete all but 3 apps on your phone, which 3 would you keep?
3 apps that I would keep?
Yeah.
Okay. Instagram, my banking apps, and FaceTime. Instagram is my favorite app. Banking because I need to make sure if I'm behind on bills or if I need to pay something. And then FaceTime because like I love to FaceTime. I hate texting. FaceTime is like my thing.
Fair enough. Not Twitter.
Absolutely
you
not.
showed your own disdain of
hate
Twitter.
I Twitter would be the first app to delete. And there's been a couple of times when I've been contemplating on deleting Twitter for good, just because Twitter is a scary place.
It is.
To be on. Yeah. So, yeah, no, for sure. I really hate Twitter.
Okay, we have another question from Yoon. If you would like to unmute her, possibly, or him.
You?
IXXYXXXN.
Oh,
Not sure
I
how to
see
pronounce
it.
that.
There we go. I've unmuted. You can now unmute Yoon.
Or if you'd rather, we can ask the
Hi.
question.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. So, what is your thoughts of the balance between jump, spins, choreograph, and step in a program? Like the proper balance point?
I think the proper balance point, it's very subjective. There's no perfect formula for the balance because it depends on what kind of jumps you're able to do, right? How much energy needs to be put into those jumps. And in order to have enough energy for these jumps, you need to be, you gotta save a little bit of that energy by, having to sacrifice one other aspect, right? Whether it be choreography, like the energy of it, or the energy of your spins, and it goes the same for these other stuff, right? Now, unless you're like absolutely fit, then you can put 100% into all three categories. And in this case, let's name the three categories as jumps, spins, and choreography, because that's basically what it is in a program, right? And so, you don't want to see a huge discrepancy in between these three concepts, but you want to see that there's a good amount of energy being invested into all three. A prime example of that would be Yuzu's Heaven and Earth program from Japanese Nationals, his short program at the 2018 Olympics, and then also Habi's like number of programs. I think those two skaters are like the perfect example of having the prime balance of the three concepts in a program. So it's very hard to answer like what is, the good balance point. It's as long as you see that there is a good amount of energy invested into all three, right? Like you do all your jumps perfectly, right? That's considered a good amount. You feel emotionally, as a fan, you feel emotionally connected into their programs, right? That's 2. And then their spins are obviously counted with their levels, with good speed and all that, right? So yeah, it as I said, it's subjective to everybody, but if the general consensus with everybody is that you see that it's good in all three departments, I think that's a good balance point.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, thank you. Maybe a hard one. Which one would you say like you are more balanced towards, like yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm still figuring that out.
Oh.
I'm still figuring that out. I mean, like,
maybe it's not something you can
my
answer
jumps-
yourself.
My jumps are nowhere near the level of Yuzu, Javi, Nathan, and all those top 6 skaters in the world. Whatever I'm good at, like, I'm gonna stick with. I mean, I'm good up to quad out, right? And I'm still trying to work on, the performance, the energy of that, right? And trying to maintain that along with my jumps on a good day. And then you also have to consider in the spins. Now, spins for me has always been a work in progress, but I feel like every year I'm slowly improving it. Now, unfortunately, my time in this sport is quite limited because we all retire at some point, right? And for me, I would like to have a good balance between all 3 points before I end my career. So I'm still figuring it out, and it's very important, especially for this upcoming season because it's the Olympics, right? So this summer is really going to be kind of like studying what my strengths and weaknesses are, and how do we address them, and that's kind of like between my team and I, for sure.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yellow Boy would like to ask a question. Are you comfortable with unmuting, Yellow Boy?
We've unmuted. You can now talk, Yellow Boy.
Hi. Did you land a triple axel or a quad first? And which one do you consider harder now?
I landed triple axle first. I think I landed my triple axle at around 10 or 11. I didn't land my first quad up until I was 14 or 15. Um, Doing quads, I would say, is harder than a triple axle, just because I have more mileage with axle, and I know that like what I need to do like inside out with axle. But for quads, it can be a little bit tricky sometimes because I still need to figure out how much energy I need to put in or how much energy I need to put out with this. But yeah, no, I think like quads are slightly harder than triple axles for me.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question from, I'm not sure how to pronounce this name, but you can now unmute yourself. I've messaged you. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
So I would just like to know, as a skater, do you think that the quad axel is actually possible?
Yeah, I think it's possible, 100%. I believe that Yuzu is going to be the first one to do it. And I think that the myth of that jump is no more because it's definitely doable. Could I do it? No, I absolutely not. I'm not willing to risk that. But I've seen Nathan's attempt at it. It's really good. Yuzu, I'd say, is a little bit closer to completion. And obviously at his level, his only thing left to accomplish is that jump, right? He's what, two-time Olympic
Yeah.
champion. I don't know how many worlds he's won, probably a lot. And he's won every event there is, except for Europeans, obviously. So the only thing left for him to do is to achieve that jump. And I strongly believe that he'll be able to do it.
Okay. We have another question from someone without a mic. It's Fantantonio. They ask, what is the last thing you think before going in place and starting the program? Like you're stood there, you're about to start, the music's gonna go.
The last, usually nothing because my mind's already like
Like in
empty and-
autopilot.
Yeah, it's an autopilot because if I catch myself thinking or overthinking during those critical moments leading up to starting the program, that's when I know something's off. And in that case, I usually try to like do these quick breathing exercises to reset myself. But most of the time, it's usually on autopilot, and I just need to focus on the job ahead of me.
Okay, we have a question from 47. If you would like to unmute yourself, you can go ahead.
All right, hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
So I was just gonna ask, when you're trying like a new difficult jump, I think many people, including me, have this kind of mental fear aspects into going the jump, and so sometimes it's really hard to make progress. Do you have any like tips on that or advice or how you deal with fear?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, man. For me, when I'm learning a new jump, the best thing to do is to trick yourself into thinking that you're just going, you're doing the jump below. So let me give you an example. If I was to work on a quad loop, right, and obviously the fear of trying a new jump comes into play, the best thing to do is you trick yourself into thinking that you're just doing a triple loop. Okay, so you got to make sure that the jump below is big and ready for a quad. So I have to make sure my triple loop is nice and easy, right? So the takeoff, I do a triple loop, right? The prep I do for a triple loop. The only difference between a triple and a quad is the like the strength that you pull into the jump, like the air position, like how much pull you bring into your body. That should be the only difference because everything else should be the same. And you just have to squeeze all the way to the very end because naturally your body's going to over rotate past triple. and you just have to trust that. If you think about putting more power into the jump, most of the time it's actually going to make your jump really small. So you just have to go into it with an easy mind, easy, flow process going into just saying, okay, I'm going to do a triple loop. And basically, as soon as you lift off into the air, you just squeeze for a quad. Um, that's actually something Kurt Browning and Elvis Soiko told me. And sometimes when I'm working on like reworking my quad toe and I feel super mental with it, I usually just um, think of it as I'm doing a triple toe, and then 99% of the time it works. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that applies for a lot of skaters. Actually, that's a really good answer.
Yeah, because I can talk about technique all I want,
Yeah.
but that's not really going to change too much of it. So you want to try to ease the tension as much as you can, because the more tension you have, the smaller that jump is, right? So try to open up the energy around you a bit and just, have an ease of mind going into it. If you fall, you fall. It's not the end of the world, right? You're just going to pick yourself back up and do it again. That's basically it. Because if you fall, like, the world's not going to end, right? And so I think that's one obstacle that many people need to get over, is that when you fall, you just brush the snow off your pants and you just keep on working and build the confidence, build the mileage, and just keep pushing. And when you feel more confident with it, that's when you can add a little bit more power. But starting out, just try to trick your brain into thinking that you're doing an easier jump. That's actually something that Yuzu told me when I was reworking my triple axel too. Yeah, because he's the king of triple axels, and when I was working and I was struggling with it, he would pull me aside and be like, "Hey man, you gotta like keep it easy, keep the arms flowing." Like actually, if you pay attention to his axle on his back outside edge, not like doing a counter or anything, but just a traditional back outside edge to do triple axle, you watch his arms and they're super flowy. He actually taught me like back then to keep my arms flowy so that my tension is not there, and I just step into it and I just go for it. And so if you watch that, you'll actually notice that his arms get pretty flowy when he jumps. So, yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So the next question is from Christine, and she doesn't have a mic, but she wants to know how your dog Hudson is doing.
My dog is doing good. He's currently taking a nap. He's been napping like the whole day for like the past couple of weeks. But he's awesome. I love him to death. He's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Oh. He does seem like an amazing dog, honestly. We have a question from Ella. I'll go ahead and unmute you if you want to ask.
Hi, what would you sing at a karaoke night if you had to sing?
Sorry, Ella, I couldn't hear that.
What would you sing at a karaoke night if you had to sing?
I would sing
BTS.
Probably BTS Dynamite, because that's like the only song that I know like 98% of the lyrics to.
And it's in English.
Yeah, and it's in English too, yeah, exactly. But I would have to be, really into it, because if I was not into it, then I'd be too shy. But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, last couple of questions now. We have one from the cat with a K. If you could unmute them, Claire. I can't quite find them in the list.
The cat with the. Okay, I got it.
There you go. You can unmute yourself now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. So what is, I guess, the most important tip that you could give someone who's just starting off with skating, like something that you wish you had known when you started off?
Oh, that's a good one. This one is like making me try to remember from my earlier stages. I think it's just to enjoy the sport. Because back then I knew that I wanted to be competitive. I was already like kind of exposed to a high performance training environment because I trained with Joanne McLeod, who coached Emmanuel Sandu, Kevin Reynolds, Jeremy Tan. So I knew the intense environment that that played for me, but at the same time, it took over a lot of my social life. And looking back, I would love to kind of like maintain a little bit of balance from my outside life, enjoy being a little kid, because back then I was so obsessed with skating. I don't think that there's anything wrong with being super obsessed um, with figure skating, but I feel like I would have been able to progress more and a little bit faster if I had been able to take a few days off from the sport because I was used to skating 7 days a week, and I had no time to hang out with my friends from school or basically have a social life back then. And I believe that if I did have a little bit of social life back then, I would have actually been able to go a little bit further with skating. Not really sure if that made any sense, but that's kind of just what I
Yeah,
believe.
a good work-life
Um,
balance is
yeah,
important.
because now, like, especially now when I'm skating and I feel super overwhelmed, I can rely on the friends that I have outside of the sport that can help me keep myself grounded
Yeah, that's
and
important.
help me bring out of like that negative state of mind that I have from the sport sometimes. And um, back then I had none of that, right? I only had all I knew were my skating friends, my parents who at the time were very on top of me at this in my career then, and my coaches. So it was really hard to kind of like find an escape uh, from figure skating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we have one last question from our very own admin and the Reddit admin, Martin. You would like to go ahead and unmute and ask?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Okay, so my question is, have you ever like forgotten what's up next in your program during a run through, like total blackout? And if so, what did you do? Did you just improvise or just stop?
Not really. In fact, it's the opposite where I have every intentions to change whatever's coming up. Um, like during the program, an example of that would be 2019 Skate Canada in Kelowna. I had this plan where I was going to do a triple axel or two triple axels at the end of my program, but I thought that um, I didn't think I was ready. And so during the 6 minute warm up, I warmed up two different patterns for my triple axel. Didn't even tell my coach. And I was in the back, like I was last to skate. So in the back, in backstage, I was kind of like mapping out what I needed to do. And so when I got onto the ice, did my first two quads, triplets, and then after triplets, it was supposed to be a triple flip, but I changed it to a triple axel double toe. And then after the footwork, I was supposed to do a triple loop, I think, but I pushed it to a triple axel half loop triple sow. Another fun story: during the week of Skate Canada, I just learned how to do triple axel half loop triple sow because why not? And then I was like, why don't I just add it to the long? And so I added it to my long, and completely changed the structure of the second half of that program, which allowed me to kind of like play up to the audience a little bit more. It gave me more time basically. So yeah, I never have I ever really forgotten anything, but there's been so many cases where I've decided to change the structure of my program to allow myself time to really just play with the audience towards the end of the program.
Yeah. Connecting with the audience seems really important for you.
Oh, it's very important to me because when I first started, I was like pretty serious and stoic, and I never really performed. But I worked with a ballet teacher who kind of like opened up that concept where you have to perform for them, right? And in turn, it will help you reduce the stress, reduce the nerves, and that's kind of how I looked at it. Is that if I communicate with the audience as much as I can, um, I'll feel more at ease with the job that I need to do. Unfortunately, for many skaters, it can be as a way to distract. Like it can be distracting and all that, and like really kick you off your game. But for me, it's never been the case. And so I look forward to the day we get to perform for the audience again, and I can kind of like mess around with a couple of them during the 6 minute warm up and during the program when it's the right time to do so. Because actually, one time I went into I forget what event it was, but I was going into my quad sound during a program, and I was like, I looked at one person, and I don't know if they heard me, but I was like, "Watch this," and I like did it. But those are things that are like high risk, but like it gives you so much adrenaline and energy going into the jump that you'll most likely land it. So yeah, I don't recommend doing it, but if you have the guts to do it, then by all means do it, and
Oh.
you'll realize how much fun it is.
So you like channel your energy from the audience.
Exactly.
That's good because a lot of your programs, like the other one coming up now, are like super energetic. So without an
Exactly,
audience and
so-
during the pandemic, that'd be like really depressing
Yeah,
just
it
to
just felt
skate,
like-
like, you know.
Exactly. Like as I said earlier, it just felt like it was a chore to
Yeah.
to go through my programs without an audience, right? And it's normal to do that because in training you have to do that, right? But
Of course.
you really want extra help as much as you can when you're at an event.
Oh, well, thank you. I think that'll wrap it up, guys. Thank you, Nam, for coming
Thank you
into our
guys so much
server,
for
Thank you so much.
answering
Well,
everyone's
thank you guys so much
questions.
for having me. It was a really great afternoon, just kind of like chatting with you guys and kind of sharing a little bit more about myself in a more structured format rather than my random live streams that I tend to do on Instagram.
Yeah. I think we all honestly, I learned stuff. I don't know about anyone else.
I learned lots as well about you and your skating, and it was so nice to hear, really from your perspective about a lot of things.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I
well, I'll be
appreciate it.
cheering you on when we live stream the next competition that you're in.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
All right, thanks.